Ako was the second child of Mr. and Mrs. Ezie, and she was the most beautiful girl in Ogene village. Her elder brother was Cody. They were the only children of their parents. Mr. and Mrs. Ezie were very poor, and they could barely eat 3 square meals a day. They were farmers and only earned their living through subsistence agriculture in Ogene village. One day, Mrs. Ezie sat her husband down and was telling him that the way they were suffering compared to other people in the village was too much, and that they were too old now to learn any skills or trade. Her husband agreed with her, and while they were thus discussing, Mrs. Ezie said, "I don't think I will allow my children to live this kind of life we are passing through now." "Yes, my wife," replied her husband. And he said, "We need to make sure they learn useful trades that will elevate their status in future, because without a trade, one is useless." "Yes, I understand, my husband, but," she said. "But what?" asked her husband, turning to look at her serious-looking face. "I'm not going to allow Ako, my only daughter, to suffer in life. I won't allow her to marry a poor man at all," she said to her husband, staring at him squarely in the eye. Mr. Ezie laughed and said, "How can you say that, my love? The child may find someone she likes or fall in love in future to marry, and she may not agree to what you are saying. The man may be poor or rich. Let love dictate. So if you force her to marry a rich man, and she falls in love with a poor man or maybe some well-to-do elite, what will you do in that case?" Mrs. Ezie laughed. She looked at her husband and beat her right hand on her chest and said, "As long as I carried Ako in my womb, she will marry a rich man, no matter what. Nothing can stop it, not even herself." Her husband shook his head, stood up and walked out of the room, annoyed that why should his wife say that. Several years later, when Ako was 18 years old, she met a young man of 22, 4 years difference, and his name was Ujinika. He was very handsome, respectful, and hardworking. When they met, it was love at first sight. The two were a part of each other, a pair that fitted each other. They were so much in love that they became inseparable. They went everywhere together, and they could sit or stand for ages, gazing into each other's eyes, untiringly, mesmerized, as if something else was in the depth of their eyes. They became known as the inseparable twins in the entire village. Ojineka and Ako started planning to get married in the future. Ako was learning a trade of cloth weaving, while Ojineka was learning the trade of cane weaving. He could weave chairs and tables of intricate designs, but they were still learning the trade, and they had about 3 years more to round up and establish their own businesses before they could think of getting married. But with that plan on their minds, they went about their ways, loving each other more and more. Ojinika introduced Ako to his parents as his future bride, and she usually went there to help them with their home chores, like a good prospective daughter-in-law. When news got to Mrs. Ezie, Ako's mother, about the relationship, she did not take it lightly at all. She inquired about the boy and found out Ojinika was from a family that was also poor like hers, but at least better off than theirs. Her friend and neighbor, Mrs. Osugo, went to see her. She had been told all the time about her friend's interest in making her daughter marry a rich man. So when she heard about the relationship between Aku and Ojinika. She sat down and said, my friend's daughter is getting involved while her mother is planning something else. So she quickly tied her wrapper and went to Mrs. Ezie's house to see her friend and tell her about it. You are here, my friend, planning to marry Aku to a rich man, while your daughter is already arranging her own marriage herself. She gossiped to Mrs. Ezie. What are you saying, my friend? Mrs. Ezie said in shock, acting with her mouth widely agape. You heard me right, Mrs. Otsugo replied. Were you sleeping when I was talking? After more discussion, they parted ways, leaving Mrs. Ezie highly provoked. That evening, when Aku returned from where she went to learn her trade, her mother invited her and her father, all of them, to the room. But her father excused himself and left. So, the mother interrogated Aku, after which he forbade her from seeing Ojinika anymore. But that Aku could not obey, and she blatantly told her mother so. She disappointed her mother in that aspect, and her mother was extremely bitter about it. In that same Ogene village, things were not working out as she had planned. Aku's mother was not happy at all. Now, since Aku was a little girl, there was this man, this rich man in that same Ogene village, an elderly man who had a wife and 5 children. His name was Ichigwe. The man always called Mrs. Ezie his in-law and often referred to Aku as his wife. Whenever they passed, he would say, my little bride, take my wife, dash her little things, and they would just play and go away playfully. He was about 65 years and extremely rich. He was so rich that in the village, they respected and envied him. He was the richest man in the village. So if you associate with him, you are regarded as a high-class person. This Mrs. Ezie had always wanted her daughter to marry. So on seeing that Aku was already having a way with Ojinika, she decided to pass through the man's house, because she could not just go there, a married man, say, come and marry my daughter. No. She was thinking how to get to him. So she knew the time usually closed from his business and come back home. She now walked past his house at that time. She knew he would be outside his home, pretending as though she was just passing by. As soon as Echigwe saw her, he stood up and went to greet her. My in-law, good morning, long time no see. How's my wife? He asked, respectfully laughing, his face glowing mischievously. Oh, my in-law, your wife is growing every day into a beautiful young woman, Mrs. Ezie replied. She threw it at him. When are you coming for her hand in marriage? Because others are already indicating interest. Mrs. Ezie did not know whether the man was actually interested in marrying her daughter or not. But being that he always called her like that, she felt that there's need to throw it into his way and put the food in front of him. He instantly froze. He started to feel high tension in his body, as if electricity was passing through, the current was passing through him. He thought of the idea of having a small girl as a wife to look at after him in his old age. So quickly, somebody giving him a wife, the platter of gold. Quickly he said, you mean it? You mean she's all grown up as fast as that? Yes, my in-law, she's grown up. So if you know you want to marry her, better start coming now. That urge to get a girl as young as Aku, look after him in his old age again, rushed through him. And imagining the young body in his hands, he felt a kind of thrill run through his vein. And he said, wow, don't worry. I'll start coming for her hand as soon as possible. He looked at her and thought of what would make Mrs. Easier speed up the relationship, the marriage, and said, and my in-law, don't you dare worry. As soon as the marriage is finalized and she gives me a child, I will build for you and your husband a big house. Oh my, exclaimed Mrs. Easier. So happy, enthusiastically. I'll speed up the whole thing as fast as possible. Don't worry. Within a short time, she will be all yours. Ha 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 ha. Echigwe exclaimed, I'll make you the richest woman in the whole Ogene village. You move from that mud, that tiny fallen hut, into a big mansion. So, with all that discussion done, Mrs. hurried back home to tell her husband. She called Aku and the household to the living room and narrated everything that Mr. Echigwe, the richest man in the village, had requested for Aku's hand in marriage, and he was coming to see her father. Aku was shocked to hear that. She told her family, who were quite happy at the prospect that will never, that there was going to be money in the family, no more poverty, there will be riches. She turned and said that will never happen because she was already betrothed to Jinika, the love of her life. She asked her mother why she was trying to be wicked to her. On hearing that, her father tried to dissuade his wife from such arrangement, despite the good fortune it would have brought to them. But his wife would not hear. Listen, Aku, look at how we are suffering, her mother said. He has promised to build us a big house, and that good for nothing Ujinika cannot come in between our lives. Do you understand? She tried to explain to Aku. Aku shook her head and said, no, mother. I've been with Ojinika for some time now, and I cannot hurt him. We have agreed, and I love him so much. Anyway, let's see how you can force me to marry that old man, Aku said. A man that's older than my father and you. Just because you need a house, material thing, you want to force me to marry an old man older than your mother. Are you not ashamed? She asked. You want to force your only daughter into marriage that is not suitable. Aku cried and walked out of the house. She went straight to tell Ojinika and his mother, and they soon sat down in deep discussion. Ojinika's mother went to see Aku's mother the next day to discuss about it, but she would not agree. She sorted the hell out of Ojinika's mother, telling her how wretched they were and that they were bad market, and chased her out of their house. Aku and Ojinika refused to give in. They hung on to their love and would not relent, even when the rich man, Echigwe, came with a lot of gifts and money to Aku's family and to give Aku. Aku refused to part with the love of her life. Echigwe was confused at it all. How can a small wretched boy like Ojinika drag that beautiful girl I've wanted since she was a small girl with me? He was angry. He gave some boys money and told them to go and beat up Ojinika. They beat hell out of Ojinika with all his body badly injured. If not for Ojinika's mother, he would have died. But she gradually nurtured him back to good health. Aku did not know where to run to. Otherwise, she would have ran away from home. She had no one in the world except her family there. Aku's mother, in a frustrated mood, went to her friend's house, Mrs. Osugo, and told her that, my friend, come and sit down. I'm not happy at all, Mrs. Osugo said. What is happening? Oh, yeah, come and tell me, what is the problem? She now narrated everything to her. Mrs. Osugo listened patiently. She was very happy for her friend. And then she said, my friend, don't worry anymore. I have a solution to solve the whole problem. Aku's mother was surprised. She sat up immediately. What solution, my good friend? She asked in rapt attention. I'll take you to Ntaka, the medicine man, to prepare a potion, a love potion, charm for you, to use on her and your daughter will agree to marry the man. Her friend said, but don't forget me, when you become rich, Thank you, my friend. That's why I always like you. I like our friendship because you always have a solution for me. Because mother said passionately, I swear I'll never forget you. The next morning, the two friends headed for Ntaka's house. Ntaka, the medicine man, was at home. So he threw the divination when they told him what they came for and said no. Ojinika and Aku were meant for each other. And Aku cannot marry the old man because he was not his star. It was not her star. But Aku's mother will not hear of it. But I'm telling you, Ojinika is Aku's husband from creation. They are divinely created as one. Why don't you let them marry? Let them be, she said to Aku's mother. Aku's mother replied, please, Papa, change that destiny. Change it to suit the rich man's own. I'm tired of poverty. And Ejigwe will build a big house for us. When the owner of something has spoken, who are you to challenge or do otherwise? Ntaka thought within him and prepared the concoction of different types. He put the charm, made everything for her and told her that it was very difficult for these charms to work, but she should use the 4 on her. After telling her how to use it so that it will work, they left. Miss Caesar thanked him and went back home. So on getting home, she put this portion, love portion, in Aku's food and watched if it will work. But no way, it did not work. She tried the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. She started to put them in her bathing water, clothes, under the pillow, almost everywhere, even putting in her own tongue before speaking with her daughter. Aku will see them and be annoyed with her mother, challenging her, telling her why she was doing all those things to charm her. At last, Echigwe could not bear it anymore. He went to do his own charm, and they evoked Aku from the place. Aku was just sitting like a zombie when the marriage was done. She was led to Echigwe's house to be his 2nd wife. That night, Echigwe led Aku with a red cloth around her wrist, her right wrist, into his bedroom. Meanwhile, the confused Ojinika and his family heard about it all and were heartbroken. Ojinika became a recluse, refusing to see the world. Some people came and told them about how Aku's mother had gone to Ntaka, the medicine man's house, to do charm, to change the girl's life. It dawned on them that Aku had been charmed to submission. Several months later, Aku gave birth to a baby boy, and she named him Ojinika. By that time, the charm had faded, and Aku's hatred for Echigwe grew. She withdrew into herself like a shell. Several years later, Ojinika had managed to get out of the bad mood he was in, and his mother kept persisting he should get married because he was getting on in age. He refused to marry, but at last told his mother to go and look for any girl, whether ugly or beautiful, did not matter, because he knew he could not love anymore, just to fulfill the mother's wish. And a girl was married for him. The 2 of them were in the house. Aku and Ojinika never met, despite the fact that they were in the same village. Nature did not allow them to meet. It played the game. They never came across each other. Aku had 4 children, and her husband Echigwe built a big house for her parents, where they lived like rich people, ate good food, and wore good clothes at the expense of their daughter Aku. When the dejected Aku was 38 years old, her husband was then 85. She happened to visit a relative and met Ojinika, coincidentally, there. They were shocked at the sight of each other, and they could still feel the pulse racing through them. Strong bond that could not be broken. Ojinika by then was in his 40s, looking more handsome than ever. His business was now well established and flourishing. He was now well-to-do. When they met, they never spoke to each other. but kept on gazing at one another, as they used to do in those days. Ako quickly left before she broke down, and throughout that day, she was not herself. Ojinika, on his part, went home to his wife and children. Although he never loved again, he found a friend in his wife. The girl his mother married for him was a nice girl. She understood Ojinika's love for Aku and respected it. Ojinika could tell her everything, and she would advise him like a sister. About 5 years later, when Aku was 43, her husband Ichigbe died at the age of 90. Her children were now grown-ups and living their own lives. So Aku was all alone in the house her husband had built for her. Her parents were in their 80s, still living in the big house Ichigbe had built for them. When Ojinika heard about the demise of Aku's husband, he told his wife about it and was surprised at the advice she gave him. Ojinika's wife advised him to go and marry Aku, since she was now a widow and single. Go, my husband, take the love of your life. Don't let her live alone. You love her, don't you? Go and take her, she advised. Ojinika was surprised, looking at her. My husband, as a nature, is trying to bring the two of you back again. So go for it. Go and take what belongs to you. Ojinika was surprised and beyond words. No, my wife, you've been here for me all these years. Like a sister, I know I have not been able to love you as I should because you are a good person. You have been a companion and a friend, and I cannot hurt you, he said. And moreover, I don't want to marry two wives, Ojinika said. His wife laughed understandingly and would not hear of that. I know, my husband, you have been a good man to me, and I know you do not love me, but you care for me, she replied sadly. I will go back to my family. You go and get the love of your life. It's a kind of love I've never heard of before, and it will be a story for the future generation to learn from. So go and take her. Few months later, Ojinika went in search for Aku. As soon as Aku saw him, she knew he had come for her. They talked at length and then agreed to get married when all quarters had been settled and satisfied. They did a traditional wedding marriage that shocked everyone at that age. Ojinika and his wife separated, but he left her in the house he had built so that she could live there, since their children were grown-ups and now living on their own. Aku's mother could not come close to the couple anymore because of what she had done, although they forgave her. The two lovebirds lived together happily, and they were the talk of the villagers as they walked hand in hand, gazing lovingly at the sky and counting the stars. They never had any child of their own, but they were satisfied in their love for each other. That is why they say, whatever will be, will be. It can only be delayed, but it will surely come to pass. What the Creator has put together, no man can put asunder. Don't forget, people, and my friends, and my fans, to like, share, and subscribe to this video, this channel, so that each time I release a new one, you'll be the first to get it. Thanks for watching.